Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 19th edition of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. For the last 100 odd days, schools have been shut down because of this unprecedented coronavirus pandemic that's raging around the globe. Some places have started unlocking, which is why it's even more important that all of us stay safe, follow social distancing norms, and ensure that our near and dear ones are all kept safe. When this lockdown started, schools shut down, students were sent home, and their education continued online. As one teacher very aptly put it, schools were shut, learning wasn't. In an effort to make online learning more effortless, Notebook made its content absolutely free of charge. And to help teachers adopt Notebook better, we set up the Together for Education webinar. What was initially intended to be a dialogue about Notebook quickly evolved into a much bigger event. Today, over the last 19 sessions, Notebook has brought together thought leaders and eminent speakers from various walks of life to discuss various issues that teachers face both within the classroom and outside. Various aspects of the school education system have been dealt with in great details. It has been our privilege that our event has been graced with some of the best speakers that the country can boast of. Today, we talk about a topic that's very, very important to every teacher and something that every teacher experiences firsthand because they deal with the teenage years of a child's growing up. Before we start, I'll tell you a small story. A few years back, I was living in Nairobi, Kenya, and my neighbors were a Jordanian family. There was a boy and a girl, twins, both about 12 years of age. Both of them had the same red shoes that they used to wear. They were brought together. They turned 13 in a few months, and soon the girl found the shoes were too boyish and decided to get high heels. The boy needed to be a little more macho and got high heel leather shoes. And every time you would pass by their apartment, those two pairs of red shoes outside their house would be a constant reminder that they have now entered their teenage, the freedom to make choices, to believe they were misunderstood. Before we introduce our speakers for the day, I will play a short Notebook video for you. This is from the CBSE curriculum of class 12, a prose piece called Going Places, which talks about how teenagers feel misunderstood by people around them.
Hello students, today we will discuss a very topical story by A.R. Burton named Going Places. Right at the start, we find two young girls, Sophie and her friend Jancy, holding hands and walking back from school. They seem to be fast friends, but soon their dialogue reveals that they are very unlike each other. Sophie wishes to open a boutique once she leaves school, but Jancy reminds her that it takes time to save the money needed to start a boutique. Sophie is not ready to give up her dreams that easily. She decides to work as a manager at a boutique till she has the money to open a store. She also contemplates becoming an actress, knowing that it pays well. Perhaps a temporary profession or a job will help her become rich quickly and give her the money to start her business. Jancy knows that both she and Sophie come from a working class background and they do not have the luxury to follow their passions. They must avail opportunities which will help them earn a living and support their families. She is aware of the sad reality that they will both probably end up working at the biscuit factory. It saddens her heart when she hears Sophie talking of far-fetched dreams. Sophie, however, wishes to follow a more sophisticated and glamorous career path. She wants to rise above the conditions she has been born in and become an actress or a fashion designer. Like Jancy, Sophie's father also scorns her lofty dreams and reminds her of her duties towards her family. If she ever makes enough money to open a boutique, she should devote that money towards buying a house for her family, according to him. Even her little brother, Derek, mocks her ambitions.
Just like this video, Notebook has put together more than 10,000 videos dealing with various aspects of the CBSE curriculum, right from classes 1 to 12. Every video has ample amount of hand-drawn illustrations, as you just saw, in an effort to use art to engage students with their curriculum better. With that as the background, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to introduce our first speaker for the day. It is our privilege to introduce to you Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Bharat retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Bharat served the Doon School as the Housemaster, the Head of Department, the Dean of Student Welfare, Dean of Activities, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at the Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He's also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. It is our privilege to have Mr. Burrett with us today. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Shubayu. And am I audible, Shubayu?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. So very good evening to you, Abhishek, Achin, all those esteemed people on the panel, and also our visitors today. What I want to do is to stay away from the technicalities because we have the panel to talk about that. I just want to talk about growing up in general. Most psychiatrists, if they wanted one thing from all of us, it would be for us to grow up. And that would mean the emotional and psychological growth that it all involves. We all have to keep growing, not only children, all of us have to grow. And it's a morbid thought, but it is true to say that we are dying from the moment we are born. And not only our body and cells, but we need to die to things, to behaviors, to certain ways of thinking, to certain biases, traits and habits, and our desires. We have to keep on renewing ourselves and dying to ourselves. All growth in some way involves death of some sort. So growth is about a constant change, and all growth involves pain and a loss of a more comfortable and familiar situation. So teenage is also a time of death. It is also a sad time for these children who have to leave behind the comforts of childhood and have to step into a world that's unfamiliar, that they haven't been trained for. So it's a trying and difficult period. So I will define growing up as a lifelong process of leaving behind the things we no longer need and to take up things that we would need on our onward journey. So as we grow, we have to jettison this baggage and only take the loads that matters. When we do this, when we take load that we shouldn't, we carry baggage from one age to the other. And that makes us ill psychologically and physically. Now, as Carl Gustav Jung once said, all life is a casting off. And so adolescence too is a casting off of youth. Now, if growing up is a journey, then I look at it as a winding road, sometimes paved and flat, and sometimes very steep and rocky and full of challenges. Now, if you look at India, we have one of the largest juvenile populations of any country. And this will show you that in about 10 years from now, we will have the largest working population. But if we don't care for our youth today, our young people, then we are heading for a huge disaster in 10 years from now. And children are the investments that we need as teachers to move into. Now, sometimes we as adults forget the childhood that we had. We forget the paths that we have traveled. And we forget that for some children, childhood is traumatic. A dad may have lost a job. A boy may have lost his parents. There are abused children. There are children who are sexually harassed, children who suffer in silence. And if you look at the image on the screen now that Shubayu has put up, not all children have the same growth. Some are more fortunate than others. And so growth is so different for different people. Our job, I think, as teachers is to not just help children pass exams, but to guide and advise and mentor and challenge these children. And we will only be able to do this if we sort out our own hang-ups and our own unfinished agendas that we carry. And we've got to make our lessons, interesting, and we've got to be the pastors to these young people that are in our care. Now, I often ask people I work with just to close their eyes for a minute. So all our people who are on the, who are listening, and if you just close your eyes for a minute and think of that one adult in your life between the age when you were between 12 and 18, can you think of one person who made a difference to your life? One person without who your life wouldn't have been what it is. And if you can picture that person, all of you with your eyes closed, just think of the qualities that that person had that made a difference to your life. That is your mentor. And that is a mentor. That sort of mentoring is what we are called as teachers to be for the children under our care. I want to just skip through some of the boring stuff. I looked at Erikson's model of growth, okay? And this is important for teachers actually to study, because Erikson maintained that personality develops in a predetermined order through the 8 stages of psychological development, psychosocial development. The strengths of the psychosocial theory is that it provides a broad framework from which to view development through the entire lifespan. It is also important to emphasize the social nature of human beings and the important influence that social relationships have on development. Erikson is as relevant today as he was many, many years ago. Now, teaching Erikson's theory at the different grade levels is important to ensure that students will attain mastery of each stage in Erikson's theory without conflict. There are specific classroom activities that teachers can incorporate into their classrooms during the stages that include the 3 stages that include children. On the other hand, if you look at Freud's psychosexual theories, he emphasizes the basic needs and biological forces, while Erikson's psychosocial theory is based on social and environmental factors. Now, again, it's important for teachers to understand what Freud actually said. He talked about the oral stage and the anal and the phallic stage. Now, for example, faulty toilet training at too early an age or by too strict a parent would have influences. There would be a fixation at a certain stage, which would lead to stinginess, holding back, stubbornness, and certain adult characteristics. And therefore, Freud is important for teachers to understand. Each stage needs to be got through smoothly. A fixation at any stage would lead to problems in later life. Now, when I talk about adolescence, I cannot help but talk about the brain. The brain grows just as the body grows. And if you look at the adolescent brain, the one on the right, it's a confused brain, and the prefrontal cortex, the part that is almost like the purple colored part in the front of your brain, that stops growing only by the age of 25, which is what psychiatrists tell us. Now, when a teenager does something wrong, he takes his father's car and has an accident or drinks too much, he comes and says, I don't know what happened. And he's right. Because till the prefrontal cortex has developed, the executive function of the brain, the part of the brain that makes logical decisions like an adult, is not there. So a lot of children come and say, I got carried away, sir. I didn't know what was happening. And that is true. You cannot expect children to think like adults. And a lot of us teachers make the mistake of believing that a child thinks like us. So please understand that this doesn't grow fully till 25. The other person I like to read is Maslow. So if you look at the next image that Shobayo is going to put up, our needs change from the basic bottom of the pyramid, the psychological need, which parents and schools provide, the water, shelter, clothing part of it. Then the safety needs. And later on, it's the higher end needs like love and belonging, esteem, self-respect, status, to self-actualization. Now you can't be self-actualized till your earlier needs are met. So when you're teaching rural kids who don't even have food, water, shelter, you can't talk about self-actualization. You can't talk about esteem. What esteem will they have? So you have to take care of all these needs. Now, what do we do as mentors to children? The short answer to that would be trust and listening. I would say listening would be the most important thing that you could do for an adolescent. And a lot of us start fixing the problem. A lot of us start giving advice. Some of us want to rescue adolescents. We don't need to do this. We don't need to rescue, fix, and advise. We just need to listen in a non-judgmental, patient way. We need to contain the adolescent. We need to listen to his stories of pain and problems and not make a judgment. We have to draw boundaries for them. We have to dialogue with them. Kids love boundaries. A lot of parents don't draw these boundaries. And the other thing I would advise all teachers to do is to keep the child in you alive. All of us need to keep the child in us alive. What about the facts of tomorrow? What do we need to teach children for tomorrow's world? We need to teach them adaptability, resilience, open-mindedness, empathy. We need to teach them how to work as a team, how to problem solve, and we need to teach them people skills. That's what our world needs, apart from IT, apart from creativity. Now, if you look at children if you look at the adolescent group, they're in deep problem, especially the boys. Our boys are in trouble. Why? We live in a fast changing world where the jobs for tomorrow haven't even been thought of. If you look at suicide levels, it's the highest between the age group 18 to 23, anywhere in the world. Look at juvenile crimes. Jails are filled with young men. Substance abuse, drugs, addiction, pornography. Leaving home, teenage pregnancies, drops in grades, a grade drop in boys, lack of drive, lack of initiative. And again, our modern life has removed from it the routine, the ritual, and the rhythm that maybe people of my generation had. We have absent fathers now. The nuclear family has taken away from the many men that grow people up. I also feel that children just don't grow up. We have to grow children up. We have to grow boys up. Boys need mentors more than anyone else. In the case of the girl child, she talks to her mother. While they cut the onions and cook the dinner, mothers and daughters are talking about the future, talking about what life for a woman is going to be. Boys don't talk to their fathers today. The fathers are too busy. Sometimes they don't even know who their fathers are. And what is the role that we have to play as teachers, as mentors? In my time as a teacher, it is important to mentor boys. And when I ask boys, have you grown up? The 6-foot chap will look at me with a lot of facial hair. He says, yes. I said, no, you haven't grown up. Till you are able to be accountable for yourself, till you can take the faults that you have made, till you can say, yes, it's my fault and not blame others, you are not grown up. We need to teach these children how to be accountable. Our job is to assist children grow into what they are destined to be. Our job is to help them find themselves, to hold their hands, to wipe their tears as they trod their path. We are not to dictate the path that they must actually move on, but we have to actualize their own personal journeys. We can tell them our stories, but they have to create their own. I am still on my growth journey. I'm groping for the right answers. I'm 68 years old. I'm still inching forward. Hopefully older, grayer, and hopefully wiser. Thank you. Thank you. And over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you so much, sir. As always, we could not ask for a better opening. As with every week, you have set the stage perfectly for the discussion that will follow. Thank you, sir. It's been a privilege listening to you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce to you your next speaker for the day. Our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, he was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler. He has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you to today's session, which is one of the most pertinent topics, not only in our schools, but also in our society. There is a certain point in our lives when we stand at the crossroad of childhood and youth. Certainly, old pastimes and interests seem juvenile, but the application for entry into the big boys or ladies club is still pending approval. Yes, we are discussing about that important juncture of our lives where we discover ourselves each day. Before I proceed further on this, let me extend a very special welcome to all our esteemed panelists. And I'm sure all of us here look forward to an engaging and enriching session today. We are discussing about those years when change and excitement are in the air. These are years when all of us found ourselves misfit in parties, as we were too old to join kids for playing in the terrace or lawn and too young to join the men at the bar. However, the best part of the entire experience is that we were happy, sometimes for reasons which were even unknown to us. Thus, being happy from within, your present worries do not affect you as you are busy weaving the dreams for your future. However, this phase also ensures that there is a seismic shift in approach towards life, and also with regard to your inner circles who act as your sounding board. Although parents and teachers are still important in this phase, teenagers often prefer to confide in their peer group, as the grown-ups may at times fail to look at things from their perspective. Thus, it is very important to get mature and sensible guidance and help in this phase. Standing at any crossroad is always confusing, and that's true for everyone. And on top of it, if there are no clear road signs, it only makes things worse. Now, coming to peer-to-peer comparison, each child goes through puberty at their own pace, and thus any peer-level comparison may result in confusion, self-doubt, and consequential depression. Most of the time, biological maturity precedes psychosocial maturity. Thus, when a teenager starts to struggle for independence and control, many changes may happen. Here are some of the issues that may affect him or her during these years. For example, wanting more independence from parents. Peer influence and acceptance becomes most important. Acceptance among your peer group, that's most important. Romantic relationships all of a sudden become very important. Now, I look at the whole thing from two different perspectives. First, about teaching teenagers, more from a teacher's perspective. Teenagers are often described as a bunch of learners that pose multiple difficulties to teachers. Some important points which may come in handy are building rapport. Building rapport with teens is essential for success. If you don't, they will probably complain about everything and anything you say or propose. A genuine interest in them and their lives will really improve our relationships with teenagers. They have a talent for seeing through you and knowing if you are being genuine or faking this interest. Next, I think very important is knowing about their interests. So take time to get to know their interests and using them in your planning. You can do an online survey at the beginning of the year and then use the results to inform your planning. You can also take into account their preferred type of activities, be it listening to music, watching movies, watching short videos, which will vary from group to group. Again, at this particular age, it is very important to give them choices. All of a sudden they're at a juncture where they really want to feel the power of making a choice and deciding for themselves. Thus, building choice into your classroom activities really helps. And I've seen that there are different ways of introducing choices. For example, this choice can be with regard to type of task, the tool to be used, the way to present it, among others. Next, I think another thing which is very important is variety. Variety is the secret sauce. Teens get bored very easily. Thus, you can change the order in which you normally do things and come up with unexpected original tasks to break down classroom routine and monotony. If you have the possibility of changing where you can have your class, do so. A classroom, a library, a playground, a garden, anywhere is good for a lesson. Another thing which I think is very important is to challenge them, because I'm sure they'll bounce back. Do not play it safe. Challenge can come in different ways. Creating slightly more difficult tasks, introducing competition in classroom, and going for open-ended tasks. Next, I think coming to role of parents, which again is very important. Now, adolescence indeed can be a difficult time. Your child is going through rapid physical changes as well as emotional ups and downs. Young people aren't always sure where they fit, and if they're still trying to work it out. Adolescence can also be a time when peer influences and relationships can cause you and your child some stress. Thus, supporting each other can be vital to getting through these challenges, because it's not only the teenager who is facing the challenge, but also the parent equally. The ordinary everyday things that families do together can help build and sustain strong relationships with teenagers. Say, for example, simple activities, which may be useful, like family meals. Regular family meals are a great chance for everyone to chat about their day or about interesting stuff that's going on or coming up. Also, many families find that meals are more enjoyable when the TV isn't invited and when mobile phones and tabs are switched off. Again, when it comes to family outings, try to set aside some time for fun family outings. You could all take turns choosing activities, a relaxing holiday or a weekend away. Together as a family can also build togetherness. Thus, I think it's very important. Family outings are very important, because then what happens is that as a family, you go out and explore. Next, again, very important is one-on-one time with your child. It gives you the chance to stay connected. It's very important, and enjoy each other's company. It can also be a chance to share thoughts and feelings if you can. So unless it's a one-on-one, they don't open up. So trying to find opportunities for each parent, it's very important that parents find opportunities to have this time with your child. I know in today's world, as Bharat also mentioned, that at times parents are extremely busy, working parents, nuclear families. So it's easier said than done. But this is something that they look forward to. So another thing very important is, celebrating your child's accomplishments, which at times maybe unwillingly, but parents do ignore. Thus, sharing his or her disappointments, supporting hobbies, helps your child know you're interested in him. So, for example, at times there may be a conflict between an important meeting in office and attending annual sports day. And these are real life scenarios where parents also may find it extremely taxing and difficult. But it's really important that at least one parent takes out time and accompanies the child, because for him or her and for his own little world, that day may be very important. He has practiced hard for last 3 months. So it's very important to celebrate your child's accomplishment and make him feel important. So moving on, another thing which is very important is family traditions, routines, and rituals. They can indeed help you and your child set aside regular dates and special time. For example, a movie night together, a favorite meal, cooking session, or an evening walk together. These are important. Next, I think household responsibilities give children and teenagers the sense that they are making an important contribution to family life. So it's important to make them feel, responsible. This could be things like chores, shopping, or helping older or younger members of the family. Next, as Burrett very rightly mentioned, that it's very important to set boundaries, and these may be healthy boundaries. So agreeing on rules, limits, and consequences give teenagers a sense of security, structure, and predictability, which is very important. Predictability and fairness. They help your child know what standards apply in your family and what will happen if he or she pushes the boundaries. Now, it's important to meet family meetings. At times, even a 4-member family, it may so happen people are so busy, different schedules, that all 4 of them maybe only meet up for lunch on a Sunday. But family meetings are indeed very important. They help in solving problems. They give everyone a chance to be heard and to be part of a working out solution. So, indeed, in today's nuclear families, we really miss that old storytelling culture that joint families had. Grandparents also had a very important role in growing up of a child. Thus, it's very important to bring back the storytelling culture. Indeed, if I say that we at Notebook take great pride in the fact that when we work on a particular topic or a particular lesson, our entire DNA is based on augmented storytelling, because that's something that we feel really engages the child. And once he or she is engaged, rest is bound to happen. Next is very important that your family, gives that extra support. At times, if need be, there's no harm in seeking professional help from a counselor or other family support service. So, adolescent brains are not best understood as simply advanced child brains or immature adult brains. So, instead, they have evolved to meet the developmental needs of humans at this stage of life. So, collectively, the pubertal, neurobiological, cognitive, and psychosocial changes occurring during this adolescence mark this as a period of great opportunity for adolescents to flourish and thrive. Thus, I feel that our society has a collective responsibility to build systems that support and promote positive adolescent development. So, thus, all of us, is very important, need to rise to the occasion and support these youngsters with love, care, and compassion. With this, I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing and look forward to hear the views of the esteemed panel today. Over to you, Shubhayum.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for sharing your views. And I'm sure with Mr. Burrett and your views, it sets the stage perfectly for me to bring on our esteemed speakers for the day, who would shed further light on this topic. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce to you Mr. John Bagul. Mr. Bagul is the principal of the South City International School in Kolkata. A master's in zoology, he started his career as a teacher at the Al Rayyan International School in Abu Dhabi, UAE. He was also a lecturer for 13 years at a college before coming back to school education in the year 2000 as the vice principal of the Nath Valley School, Aurangabad, prior to joining the South City International School, Kolkata, where he is the founder principal. Mr. Bagul follows the leadership mantra of being firm and fair. It is indeed our privilege to have with us today Mr. John Andrew Bagul. Sir, over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Shubhayu, for such a wonderful introduction. And of course, to Achin, Abhishek, Mr. Burrett, and my esteemed panelists who are there along with me. Good evening, everyone. Our speaker, our listeners for today. I have no slides to show you all. I'm only going to speak from my heart because I think with my 30 plus years of experience, especially 20 years out of that in schools, I do work with a lot of young adolescents, and they are the ones who keep me on my feet and keep the teachers on our feet. We are always thinking how we can be ahead of these students. I totally agree with what Mr. Burrett has started off so well, and he mentioned that he spoke about death. And if I may quote from the new serial which is on Netflix right now, Dark, which all the adolescents are loving it, that every beginning is the end and every end is a new beginning. And Mr. Burrett did speak about that. Today, when we deal with teenagers in schools, we have a lot of issues to handle. And both Mr. Burrett and Achin spoke so clearly and succinctly about the issues that children are facing. In school today, we can only discipline kids with kindness, with counseling, and obviously by getting to the root of the matter. What I feel that children want to be heard, and I'm repeating what was already being repeated earlier. Open lines of communication are extremely important. I've noticed that young adolescents today face a lot of issues, especially due to the digital world, and the peer pressure and the peer bullying happens a lot for them in their virtual world. At least till the corona and COVID situation, we used to tell kids to be involved in more physical activities and stay offline as much as possible. But today, they have no choice but to be glued to their cell phones and digital devices. Sadly, what we have realized that many students have certain issues at home which they could discuss with teachers. They felt that they are able to express themselves better in the absence of parental pressure or parental dominance. Mr. Burrett had touched points briefly about sexual exploitation, about child abuse. And when we work, our kids also work with different organizations, to name one, International Justice Mission. And they've realized that a lot of kids, students, girls from well-to-do families take up sexual trafficking. It's not a myth. It's something that happens even here in South Kolkata, where they want the easy money. So other than educating the kids and teaching them core values and seeing that they perform well, I think schools are also dealing with issues, emotional, psychological, especially now during these COVID times, where the students are unable to form their peer groups. They love being in the company of their friends where they can express themselves. They're constantly, and at present for these 100 days lockdown that is on, they're constantly in the presence of the parents. And maybe it's a bit too unhealthy. Earlier, they would not be spending enough time with parents, and we needed ways to devise, we had to devise ways to have the children spend time with parents. But today we've realized that they also need some time to themselves. In many adolescents, we've found out that their hobbies, their dreams, their passions are realized or fulfilled when the school teachers get involved with them. They are different when they interact in school in the presence of a favorite teacher. And obviously, as Mr. Burrett told us, close your eyes and think of a mentor. The mentor that comes to your mind is your favorite teacher who's taught you and who's influenced you in so many ways. And today is a very good day as such, because today is Guru Purnima, and Mr. Burrett did say, think about your mentors. And that was a wonderful way to start Guru Purnima, where we are all teachers and mentors. And for the world, it's said that we may be ordinary teachers and they look down maybe on teachers. But for the students that we teach, we are heroes to them. Each and every teacher has heroes among their students. And these students and this adolescence that we're talking about, I think the problems associated with adolescence starts from class 6 itself. When they move on from primary school to secondary school, they feel that void. They were the oldest in primary school. They were leaders there, grade 5. They moved to grade 6. And now they are being compared with students in 10 and 12. They have a lot of issues, and we as teachers have to look into those factors. They want to compete with older kids. What they see is not just on the virtual world. Before the lockdown, they used to travel on the buses together with older kids. They see the boy-girl interaction. They see so many things happening. And that is when the mind, their bodies are still young, but they still want to do what they want to emulate what is being seen. Unfortunately, yes, not every parent has the time to communicate with the children. They're often sent off after school hours for different classes, maybe for sports or academics or the so-called famous tuition classes. And the child is just shunted from one place to another. The most important stable factor in these young adolescents are the teachers. And therefore, the teachers are always vigilant and trying to interact with the child, to know the child better, the issues that the child is facing, the problems that the child could have at home. Sometimes it has been observed children exhibit certain symptoms which may speak of child abuse, physical symptoms or behavioral symptoms. This lockdown of 100 days is something which is quite alarming, where the counselors or the teachers cannot really get in touch with their students in a physical manner. We are worried as educators that certain kids need to speak their issues and problems to educators in a one-to-one setup, which is not possible right now. We do not know how long this lockdown situation would continue, but we definitely feel there's a gap that needs to be filled at present with not just for education. Every school across the country is trying its best to have online classes, interactions. The academic curriculum is being taken care of. But these who neither fit, as Mr. Achin also said, they neither fit with the young ones, they neither fit with the older ones or the young adults. They're the middle ones. And there's this love matter, which has been shown in the slide so well earlier. And today, when we speak about love and affection, it's not just a boy-girl relationship. Younger children are becoming more aware of same-sex relationships. The thought process or the awareness to these different aspects of sexuality come in quite early in children. Somehow we feel that they are young and they don't know such things, but I know for a fact that kids online are exposed to a lot of sexual content, because I think all of us adults here would realize and agree that when we were growing up, our music that we used to listen to really did not have words which my ears still burn if I listen to such words, because I associate those words with, I mean, we call them bad words, it's degradatory. But today, in the latest music or whatever top charts, they're all a part of what songs are popular. Just just 10 years back, it was so easy to say that a child is in front of the computer and you monitor the computer. But what happens when that computer is into a smartphone and everything is in the phone? And how much access is there? And today, at this time and age, when we are in lockdown, we want every child to have access to a device so that they can attend their classes. But this is there's no regulation, and I don't think it's practical for parents to constantly monitor what is happening. Children are not aware, these adolescents, these young ones, of what they're posting and how they could land up in trouble online. There are plenty of factors, and as school heads, we keep having sessions with kids of different ages of how to be safe online, of what they should not do. I've seen cases of children, girls as young as in grade 6 or 7, maybe sending obscene pictures of unwanted pictures of themselves to someone else. Boys in grade 8, blackmailing. So, these issues that are there are myriad. We have to be sane. We have to not be too judgmental, but also understand where they're coming from, what is their code of morality, what are they observing. It's not just the school now which is going to set everything. There are so many other factors that kids get exposed to which can bring about so much of conflict in their minds. The sad part is that, yes, today in the lockdown and maybe in the next couple of months, we cannot be physically in contact with our students. We want these young minds to have platforms to open up, to be able to discuss their problems, for them to interact on a one-to-one level. They are extroverts or introverts. How would that be possible now? When new kids are joining a section and with virtual classrooms and online teaching, how do they make friends? It's not as if you walk into a classroom and see 30 kids around you and you gravitate to whom you think would be good. As a friend. So there are plenty of new issues that we are also handling right now as adults. We are learning a lot during this COVID situation. It's encouraging to see that the young minds, children, are adaptable and flexible. They are exposed to a VUCA world which is so uncertain. Everything is uncertain. I think parents need to be taken into confidence. As schools, we need to now hold hands a lot with parents, to have parents on the same platform, to share with parents our concerns. Because today, children are constantly in the care of the parents, and sometimes things go haywire. And now that the lockdown is partially lifted, these young ones are left alone at home with their devices for academic purposes, and parents are out working. And the very young ones, of course, may not have access to a device, but these adolescents, these growing up kids, the ones who we think could be responsible, are now having easy access to the internet. And along with the internet, there's hundreds of other things that they would be exposed to, that they would be looking at, their social media pages. And something that I've realized as they are coming out of their adolescence and becoming more mature, they also suffer from this anxiety. They start getting, by 6th, 7th, 8th, they've been there, they've done that, they've tried a lot of mischief and experimented, and then they're slowly settling down. That's what I've observed by 9th and 10th. And they're sort of bored of everything now. And yes, now we need to focus and do academics. A few of them still need some hand holding and mentoring. But the fear of missing out, FOMO, as it's commonly called, is seen, it's rapidly increasing in these young adults. And they feel that I need to be doing everything possible because they've wasted time in their 6th, 7th, 8th, experimenting in life and seeing this boy-girl relationships and whatnot. And then they don't want to miss out on anything. They want to make their CVs excellent. And then they say, we have to do sports, we have to do co-curricular, we have to do academics. And there's so many of these kids who are now into the FOMO zone. And as educators, I think we need to convert that FOMO to JOMO, the joy of missing out. We have to train, we ourselves as young, as adults, and with, as Mr. Burrett said, grayer, older, wiser. Yes, but yet we are also getting into that FOMO where we feel we should attend this webinar. It's important. We should attend that webinar. And that symptoms, what we used to see in our young adolescents, is now moving to us because we want to be aware of everything that's happening around us. That was the main cause of stress with kids. The holidays that Mr. Achin mentioned, that you can take your children out, but they always want Wi-Fi. They want to be connected because that's the whole point. Their social media, their Instagram, they don't want to miss out on anything. They want to see how many likes they've got, the Snapchat. They cannot be out of Wi-Fi connectivity. And that social media stress has definitely also brought about rifts in families where the child goes into the room and says, I'm studying, locks himself up. The parent doesn't know the schedules of the child. Both are, Mr. Achin and Mr. Burrett did speak that lines of communication need to be there. Rituals have to be maintained. And online, there are a lot of quotes which are going against online teaching, but online teaching is something which is maintaining a ritual that the child gets up in the morning, and these adolescents need that ritual much more. Otherwise, they'll keep sleeping on, get up at 10, 11 o'clock. So they need to have a ritual that, yes, I get up early morning, I do this, I get ready for my class, I have my uniform, I have that ritual, I have a routine. And it's very important psychologically. Of course, we have other experts, part of the panel, who will speak about such things. But I feel that our role as an educationist is quite challenging today. In addition to the curriculum, we have to deliver a lot. Our children are coming from various backgrounds. We do have children even from influential backgrounds, financially well-off backgrounds, having a lot of psychological issues. Teachers, along with their teaching time in school, would always look into how they can speak to the child during a games lesson, a library lesson, speak individually, or counselors used to interact. Now, during the lockdown, it's not possible for us to do such things. So we depend on simply trying to get in touch with the child, but with some the child is never alone to discuss matters freely. So those are certain concerns that we could have as educationists, that how are we helping our children, these adolescents who need to speak out their minds in the absence of overbearing parent or oppressor, where there may be sexual abuse, physical abuse, or whatever is happening, or simply just speaking out. Many children feel they don't want to speak in presence of their parents, but in school they're able to speak to their teachers, they're smiling, they're more interactive, and whereas at home they're always oppressed. You are useless, you don't do this, you can't do that, you look at so-and-so, look at this one. So I just feel, to sum up, I would say, the adolescent issues, according to me, start off at a much younger age, when the child moves from primary school to secondary school. And once the child moves into secondary school, we as teachers need to be more understanding. We need to realize that it's not just the academic stress that the child would have, but there's so much of peer pressure, there's too many things happening too many things that are beyond our control because they used to be happening in the virtual world outside the school gate per se. There are plenty of things that happen when the children are even in locker rooms and changing and whatever. So counselors need to be aware. And this was in the pre-COVID situation. And now during lockdown and whenever we'll open physical school, we just feel that we should be reinventing and thinking of new ways in getting in touch with our young minds, with the adolescents who definitely need mentoring, who need some hand holding, who think they're old enough and can do things on their own, but they do make mistakes, and we have to be there on the guidelines to see that we guide them. They want to experiment. They think they're bold enough to try out new things in every sphere. They need encouragement to take on things positively. And I hope that with this virtual online situation, which may be there for another 60 to 100 days more, who knows, we should be able to help these young adults on the right path, be available for them, and see that we prevent or at least provide helplines for these kids. I'm not saying the whole class is like that, but I'm saying there are so many kids with different issues which we would be able to observe in a physical classroom. In this virtual and online classes, it's quite difficult to understand and gauge what's happening with children. And main concern, of course, for parents is curriculum, and would the curriculum, the syllabus be completed. But beyond that, we teachers have many more issues, which I think every school looks into and wants the child to be an emotionally, psychologically, socially well-adjusted individual. I think with that, I'll end my views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was extremely insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, sir has two wonderful daughters, one of whom has just started her career as an educator. And with that kind of a thoughtful father who's also an educator, it is no surprise that she chose a career in education. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Madam Hemlata Shukla Suri. Ms. Suri is a passionate psychologist and a registered rehabilitation professional with rich experience in both corporate sector and mental health. With a master's in applied psychology and a double B.Ed in integrated science and special education, she also holds a diploma in vocational rehabilitation and a PGD in guidance and counseling. She is an alumnus of the University of Delhi and the Jamia Millia Islamia. She is empaneled as a CBSE counselor and a rehab psychologist for the last 7 years, and also registered Manodarpan, which is the MHRD helpline. She is a member of the NCS, AISUCAP, IAHP, and works currently at the Carmel Convent School in Chanakyapuri, New Delhi. She is very passionate about mental health, and her work related to this, especially with children and adolescents, has always been an endeavor to create much needed awareness about mental health and to break the stigma that is sometimes attached to mental illnesses. Her work also involves conducting free workshops in coordination with NGOs, and she has dealt with various subjects in her workshops like POXO, substance abuse, studying skills, sports psychology, adolescents and their issues, life skills, sustainable development goals, mindfulness, learning disabilities, inclusion, amongst others. She has conducted and participated in various workshops and conferences related to the field of disability and mental health. She is one of the founding members of the Delhi Teachers Forum. She is also the founder member of Intellify, which is a non-profit organization run by IIT Delhi students. This has created resources for learning online and offline for teaching children from diverse backgrounds. She is also an avid naturalist, a member of the Indian Bonsai Association, the All India Kitchen Garden Association, and the Indian Succulents Association. She regularly sponsors and funds students, especially girl children, and their education at various forums. She has also been a panelist at the Doordarshan DD Science Program, the Astha Channel Program on Mental Health, and Divyangjan, IIT Intellify MGIP UNESCO events, Project CACA seminars on child sexual abuse. She hopes to make a difference in the lives of everyone with her efforts. It is indeed our pleasure and privilege to have Ms. Suri with us today. Ma'am, over to you.
Good evening. That was, thank you, Shivayu, for the long introduction. And I'm here. I'm really pleased to be here amongst all of you esteemed panelists. And this topic of today's discussion of today's topic is very important and very relevant in case of all of us as students, as parents, and educators.
So sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Your camera is not visible. Could you please try turning that on once?
Just a moment.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, good evening and namaskar to everyone. It's my pleasure to be here amongst you all. And the topic for today's discussion is very relevant in terms of this COVID pandemic. And since we all are closely working, and I must thank Notebook for organizing such a relevant topic on teenage, and especially the growing up years. If we talk about teenage supposed to be a very important age, and we generally call it age of torment. When we talk psychologically, we have seen Mr. Burrett, Mr. Achin, Mr. Bagul talking about it, and they have set the stage rolling for all these discussions. They have talked about various theories of psychosocial development, Erikson, which are very important in the development of the children and from the very initial stages. If you go by developmental cycles, we need to start very early. So teenage or adolescent is a stage which is a developmental stage it is marked by a very fast physiological and emotional, social, and cognitive development. You will see suddenly the child, this is the growth phase of the children between the childhood to adulthood. It's a transitional phase, and I don't want to get into a lot of details because we already talked about it. And here I just want to talk about few things which are very close to my heart, and it will just make the picture of the adolescent clear in your minds. Just a moment, I'm sharing the screen. When we look at teen, you can look at the screen and you can see there's a lot of physical development which is happening. You will find them emotionally very unstable at times. You will find them with mood swings. You will find them very reluctant, very sensitive at times. You will find them with rage at times. There will be complete mood swings. They will argue. They will not, any adolescent you will find, parents are finding it very difficult to handle them at times because they're always there not to agree with what others are saying. This is all, if we see, this is all because of their increased development of the brain. This is when we talk about the development physically, we refer to the brain development. So we as parents need to understand that forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain is developing very fast. So they have these typical mood swings, they have typical attention span problems, they look clumsy, confused at times. Sometimes you will find them really sorted. They'll understand, like they will get confused, they will get blocked sometimes. They don't understand because the developmental stages are taking place. The brain is still developing. They become very sensitive at times. You will not understand as parent, as teacher, that what to do with this boy, with this girl. For little thing, they get very angry. There's a rage, there's a fit in behavior. You will find sometimes they are getting into confrontations, which could be verbal, which could be physical. So these things really make you get worried at times. And then what happens is you will find them sometimes very self-conscious. Most of the time you will find them due to the change in their body structure. So we need to take care of these things when it comes to developing self-consciousness and positive body images. We must start very early for these things. Mr. Bagul said that it is around class 6, but as per me, we start very early. We start with class 4, grade 4 students. We start doing the basic physical development workshops, and we talk about these things. We prepare them from very beginning about these changes which are coming up, and we also explain about the social emotional development which will come up, which will change, and which is actually start nowadays because of the early development. You will find these things start happening in the classes 4th and 5th, and by the age of 6 they becomes very these problems become even complex to handle by parents. So and then we move on to these behavioral issues. You will find them very independent at times, and sometimes you'll find them they need help. So as parent, as educator, you need to be really observant about these things. You will find a lot of change in their sleep patterns, and sometimes it's very erratic, and more so in these times of COVID. You will find they are most of the time glued to their screens. So that also creates disturbances in their brain, their sleep pattern. But being a parent, you need to be really watchful, because sometimes as parent, we jump the gun, we confuse it with substance use and abuse. But nowadays children are at home, we can rule out that thing. But most of the time, parents come in and visit us, and they refer to these things. But then we have to explain them about this development, amygdala, emotions, and the developmental things in the brain. We have to really get down into that neuro developmental stuff to explain them these things. And you will find them pretty unorganized at times. They will not understand how to prioritize. So we as parents and mentors, we are supposed to guide them sometimes. They really don't want to listen, but you have to watch them sometimes, and then you have to offer, and you have to slipping yourself inside their lives to help them. And you will find them struggling with educational challenges, because this adolescent time, as we say, it's a time of torment. They will actually, you will find them, have to perform, have to really be very, times are very demanding for them. So they have to really perform on all the fronts of development. And you will find them very conscious about their self, their body image. So you can also see there is a healthy eating disorders also happening, which is a very in thing nowadays. Parents are really worried that children are not eating whatever is being cooked at home. They just want to eat healthy things. They just go on crash diet. They stop eating certain things. So as parents, as teachers who are taking online classes, and we need to really take care of these things while teaching. We need to intermingle these eating habits into the chapter teaching. We really need to add these things to our teaching, maybe beginning of the chapter, in the introduction, or whatever. We need to add these things, because counselors in school do not have the opportunity to meet all the students. So when we have to see this adolescent crowd, we have to really make our chapters, make our lessons in such a way that we talk about these things, which are basically talking about the healthy living, healthy sleeping patterns, and maintaining their sleep patterns and maintaining their routine. As Dr. Bagul said, these online classes are really relevant because it gets the routine going on. As parent also, we get into a routine. Otherwise, generally people are sleeping very late, and all of them are complaining about these things. I mean, I get very many complaints about these parents that my child is not getting up for the morning class. So we have to tell them that you have to also act as a positive and a disciplined role model, so as you are not glued to the screen when you're putting the child to sleep. These are adolescents and they understand, they know more than you. So those things you have to really explain to them, and you have to understand their patterns, you have to logically reason them out. And you will also find a lot of self-esteem issues. There will be a lot of stress issues which lead to anxiety and depression. There will be ODD, which are the mood disorders. You will find a lot of problems like Mr. Bagul mentioned about bullying. They face a lot of peer pressure also. There's a lot of body shaming at times happening because of this. You will have to really get into the details. So what happens is we need to really get into these if you see such stressful things, signs in your child, if you see there's sudden change in their behavior, their performances, the things they were doing regularly, they are not interested, you have a reason to look for their social emotional relationships. You have to really find out what's going on. You need to really connect with children. And most of the parents say that it's very difficult for me, my child doesn't open up, he doesn't talk to me. Because people say that you should become friends with teenagers, but it's actually between being friend, it is basically a fight between being friendly versus being a friend. So we really have to understand till what extent we can become their friend. I mean, it's generally nowadays it's very difficult to get these teenagers talking and to open up with us, and especially the parents, because they always feel the parents will judge them. Next time, if they're getting something, it will be taken away from them. So all these things in the background, children generally remain glued to their friends, they remain glued to the virtual world. Why we find such a thing? When we see that there is an addiction to the cyber world, there is an addiction to the digital screen, and then we see these things, and why do we feel that way? Because the teenage always finds that he's been accepted for who they are. They are all natural there, people understand there, there's somebody who's listening even while they're chatting with someone. Those people understand that word is actually for them is very warm, welcoming, and they feel excited being in that world. So we as parents need to understand that accepting them for who they are, remaining understanding, and rather than pointing out, as we have heard previous speakers talking about the love, care, affection, and most important is understanding them, unconditional support, which is very important thing which we need to do here. So we need to see the reasons why the child is more happy when the child is more on the gaming apps, or maybe chatting with a friend, maybe on Insta. So we will see that they are accepted for who they are. They are not judged. Their efforts, whatever they are saying is being appreciated. So we have to, as parent, as teacher, we have to really accept things, we have to accept things and then mold them accordingly. So this is something which is very important and which we generally tell parents and advise, and we all should understand now. Like I have 2 children. I have really learned and grown up with my elder one. Now the younger one is enjoying those learnings from me, and his teenage probably is comfortable than the previous one. So it's really heartening to know, but then my elder one always gets back and tells me, you did not do this with me. So it's something, the life is a process of learning, as Mr. Burrett put it very clearly, that there's a constant learning, evolving, development going on in our lives. And so we must check these things. And there is a lot of, since we know there's a lot of aggression and there's a lot of violence going on around us. So even adolescents are not untouched by such things. So then what happens is we need to really talk about these things to children. We need to really touch upon the real world out there. We cannot always paint the honky-dory picture in front of them, which is why generally people say that my child is not coming and sharing things with me. He or she is not asking me questions the way, ma'am, he or she is asking you. Because they understand the last time I asked my parents, they gave me some wrong answer. They were not honest enough to answer my query. So parents and teachers and all of us need to be very honest when we answer. We need to see their age appropriateness, and then probably we can modify the answer and we can tell them. Like a child from 5th grade comes and asks about the sex education. So we have to really tell them it is about the physicality. you will develop into a woman. And when we talk about the menstrual cycle to girls in our workshops, and it's a very regular workshop which we have in the school, and for the grown-up girls also, and it is generally told to them very clearly as seeing their understanding and seeing their age appropriateness to understand the thing in the right frame of mind. So what happens during adolescence, I will just put it on the slide. It is their very simple thing that happens. Adolescent is developing physically, socially, emotionally, and there's a moral, spiritual, and cognitive development which is happening on all the fronts. So when we talk about these things, how do we handle the physical development of the child? We must, as parent, I will not get into many technicalities, which is, I mean, generally you can find out how you find your, but then how you help your child with the physical development is by inculcating, try and keep trying until you succeed. This is something, it needs lots of patience. Like for a small child, we keep on moving behind the child and feed the child. Here is also sometimes you can find such things happening. You are making some dal roti or sabzi or maybe fish or some traditional khana at home. The child refuses to eat that. Child says, no, I want momos, I want some, continental dish I want to eat, I want Italian. So then because they need to understand. Sometimes they don't understand because you also had a hard day. We don't have domestic aids at home. As parents, as mothers, as teachers also, sometimes we always face these things. What we cook, they don't like. So these things need to be from very beginning. You need to teach your child. We cannot change these things overnight. So believe me, you have to really start from very early. If it has not happened, you can still start these things. You can teach them healthy eating habits. You can teach them to be physically active. If they are not ready to move, they are glued onto their screen. You have to surely talk them about the excitement you all had when we were on the ground. Our times of development and growth as childhood, we had such a euphoria, such happiness we found when we were moving to a ground, to playground, to meet our friends. But nowadays, it is COVID times, but otherwise you will find that if they come to the park, they stand on one side, they start talking. So as parents, if you can find time, you must put them in some physical routine. Like maybe you can do some time, early morning, you can sit with them, have some simple yoga exercises, which are very handy. Many online classes are going on, which are for free. Maybe you can just teach them one Surya Namaskar, and they can do maybe 5 of them on each side, which is very easy to be done. I mean, these are the practical things which I'm telling you, and we follow them, and these really matter. And you have to develop a positive body image. Then comes their sleep routine. It has to be really inculcated from beginning. Your children don't actually follow you, but they listen to you very clearly. But certainly, if you are really very disciplined parent and you are following certain routines, your child will definitely follow you because you are their role models. And every child, as per me, everyone should have one role model, and especially adolescent. And when it comes to emotional development, we must teach them gratitude. We must teach them self-esteem should be developed. We must give them some kind of responsibility at home, maybe ask for help. We can also do things like we can have some storytelling, maybe something from the past or something from the present that I'm facing these problems, which should be like, age appropriate again. We should not, load them with something which is very serious of nature, so that which makes them very worried. So we have to really discuss things which are age appropriate, and they can take they can understand the problem. So this helps them in decision making, also makes them feel important. As Mr. Burrett and Mr. Bagul said, that we must involve, and Achin also said it's very important to get them talking, to get their viewpoints on various things, which helps them develop self-esteem. We must talk about empathy, which is one of the things which I really feel sad that it is lacking from our world, and it's slowly and slowly vanishing, especially from these adolescents. They are sometimes very insensitive. And I have really been very strong on this. I always do some or the other activity. It is one of the important life skills which we must teach our children. So emotional development also starts at home, when they see the act of kindness at home, acts of understanding between the parents and the grandparents, when the parents are really understanding their parents and talking that with empathy, no, I will do this work, don't worry, we will take care of you. Sometimes, all these things, if they see the negative things happening at home, definitely these things are imbibed in the minds of these young souls. And there is a lot of cognitive development due to the development of the brain. You will find there's a lot of reasoning happening. That is why you will find a lot of argument happening. They will have a lot of critical thinking happening. And you will suddenly find a child really coming up with new things. So which helps them understand their own self in a better manner. So what happens is, when you need to foster these things, when you see there's a problem solving attitude which is there's some problem at home, we can always sit and discuss across the table. This much time, I think we can always find out for the family, because we cannot hide behind the fact that I'm busy, you are busy, I don't have time. But I definitely find this very pressing. It is needed that we must talk about little problems. This helps the child to brainstorm things. Sometimes the children come up with very nice solutions, which we really need to sometimes respect. But then we have to, maybe it's not applicable in the situation, then we can always tell them, yes, you have given a very good suggestion, but this is what the problem is, we cannot apply your suggestion right now. So this is very important that we must involve them. There is something called moral spiritual development. There what happens is, we need to let them follow certain routine, which is very important, which could be like getting into pranayam. I mean, doing some little simple exercises, breathing exercises, and slowly you can build upon that. I know it's very difficult nowadays, but many parents are getting into this. And there are many softwares, there are many programs which are available. You can always refer to them. And if you go to psychosocial development, which the friends become very important. They occupy the central stage in the child's life. So we need to see, observe, we need to let them be with these things, but then we have to keep talking. Certainly some parents have this problem that, no, my child is not talking to you, he's only listening to his friend. This is because of these, because the adolescent gives more importance to peers, friends, and these circles, and their opinions become very important. And then if we see things like how to deal with such things, how do we develop, help child developing life skills? Here what happens is, we must develop self-awareness, which is another important skill, which is basically how to regulate and cope up with emotional issues, how to cope up with pressures, how to remain adjusting, how to be resilient, because resilience is very important when it comes to handling life nowadays. Because when you handle failures, you are able to handle your failures with grace, which is very difficult for these children to understand. But then we as parents must model that behavior. Whenever there is a problem, if we start creating a lot of hue and cry about things, children notice, they take a cue from these things. This is the way to handle things. So we must get into a positive parent role modeling. And this also leads, if you are self-aware, you know, if something hurts you, then it is bad for others also. Then it leads to fostering empathy in a child. And we must develop their communication and interpersonal skills. These are important life skills I'm touching upon, because communication is very important. The child must be clear, because they are confused. They don't know sometimes how to figure out how to say something. They end up saying something wrong, and teachers and parents, sometimes we figure out, oh my God, what are you saying? Why are you talking like this? We get overwhelmed with our behavior. So we, instead of getting overwhelmed, we must understand we need to react in certain fashion to these children. So next time the child doesn't even talk to us, because our reactions are such strong, the child gets shocked. I mean, next time, how am I going to share my problem or any issue with that person? So the parents have to be really cool really have to understand. You observe, you listen, you absorb these things, and then you have to devise certain ways to handle this. And their interpersonal relationships must be taught them to be, I mean, if they're coming up with some problems with their peers, you must sit and discuss, just try to make them understand the other person's point of view, which is again due to empathy, they can understand that. And if you are helping them, you are involving them taking decision, you are helping them in decision making and problem solving, you are already here. I mean, if you're really putting your children in the decision making, like what to buy, which fridge to buy, maybe sometimes, which AC model we should buy. Come on, you do a market survey, you check online. The child will feel really happy doing that. And sometimes in software also, these children are really good at software. And I find them, today's adolescents are enviable basically. I envy their abilities, So when you see them helping you in decision making, they will come up with a list of things, with list of many positive, and the market, they'll understand what it is. I mean, the rates and all. These are little things you can involve that helps them in problem solving. You can simply help them navigate through their decision making and problem solving skill. And if the child, you see, the child is sketching something you find creative, I mean, something you see the child is very fond of doing, you need to really foster that. You need to really try and explore more on those skills, because this is something which is, creativity is really important to be fostered. That's an outlet, and it's basically a divergent thinking anyone can have. And you must nurture, you must see what they are good at. I mean, basically navigating what are their strengths and their weaknesses. We must help them develop this insight into themselves, which is again a part of self-awareness. They're all intermingled life skills. Then comes a critical thinking. Critical thinking again is to looking at things in different perspective and understanding them, and then taking some decision, or maybe going on with their understanding of things. Then again, I earlier mentioned, which is coping up with emotions and stress, which is emotional intelligence, and you have to really teach them that. Social intelligence is again an important thing. No matter how educated, how qualified you are, if you don't have social intelligence and emotional quotient, it becomes very difficult for a person to succeed in life. And when we see these things, we must understand the 5 points I find to lay the foundation of a positive development of adult and youth are caring and competence, and then comes character, confidence, and connection. These things are very important when we talk about adolescent rearing up, and these are the years which lay down the foundation for your future life, which is youth and a positive adult. So these, and 4 more things I wanted to, I mean, these are little different, but these are 4 things which I really believe when I talk about putting it in educational term, is basically integrating everything, which is your cyber safety into curriculum, which is very important. There are a lot of, I mean, very experienced people from education industry are here, and Notebook is again into these things, developing softwares. So we must integrate this cyber safety into curriculum, which is the need of the hour. We must do that. And we also prepare them for the education for this digital learning. And we must have the curriculum, basic curriculum for the students to update themselves on digital platforms, which is very important for today's, and they will be very interested to learn all these things. And then the third thing which
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. Ma'am, sincere apologies. Very sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Because
just
of the paucity of time, if I could request you to wrap up. Thank you so much.
2 minutes, 2 minutes. Yeah, then there is another thing, which is discussion about the role models, which is, I said, we all must have role models in life. And then comes your storytelling or anecdotal discussions. We always talk about the good and positive things in life. We hardly talk of the failures which we face in life. We all fail in life. Unless we try, we don't understand. And we face failures in life. We must, as parents, as teachers, talk about these failures also. They must learn to accept their failures with positivity, with little setbacks are fine, but when we must train them for life. With this, I hand over to Shubhayu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And sorry about the interruption. We just have to at times cut short. We understand the
No,
topics
I'm
that
sorry.
we deal
I'm
with
sorry. Yeah.
are quite complex.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you so much.
It's a very long topic. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now our privilege to introduce to you the third speaker of the day, Mr. P. Kadhiresan. Sir is currently in the capacity of principal of the Navaneeta Public School in Nellore, a residential school for the underprivileged under the CSR initiative promoted by the Krishnapatnam Port, one of the largest in the East Coast region. He's had 24 years of teaching experience in Matriculation Board, CBSE, and ICSE Council schools. He has had 16 years of experience in the capacity of school principals and 4 years of working in Saudi Arabia. He won the Bharat Shiksha Ratan Award in the year 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. P. Kadhiresan. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sapiu. That is so nice of you introducing me. I'll just take a moment to share my presentation. So, good evening, all the participants and the panelists. Thanking you all for joining this wonderful session and a very critical and a sensitive topic. As my introduction went, I come from the background of being a principal at the Navaneeta Public School in Nellore. All my other panelists have been from a 8-tier city, but this is a very remote place in Andhra Pradesh, and believe me, the school is run by Krishnapatnam Port. As the introduction went, it is run by the Krishnapatnam Port, which is one of the largest in the East Coast region. And this school caters to all the facilities required for the children. It's more like for the underprivileged children. They don't have a permanent shelter over their head, but we provide all kind of facilities for them. Now, the background of the school which I worked had to be hinted upon because I'd been across schools working in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. I've been at Saudi Arabia, I've visited Cambodia, Thailand, all. Across any country, an adolescent is an adolescent. There is no comparison in terms of the region or the background they come from. Adolescent in general is a period which marks the transition from childhood to adulthood, typically from say 12 to 18 years. But more recent studies somewhere in a medical journal from Canada had seen that it's extending till 25 years of age just because people are not able to make themselves independent. They are still on their dependence that makes them still extending. Right now, how do we know this adolescence, whether somebody is into adolescent? These basically are the behavioral changes which you could see in an adolescent. As most of the panelists had spoken about, you would see the child more behaving independently. He feels like he knows everything and he doesn't need any support more. There's an increase eagerness to learn, or sometimes it's the other way around. They withdraw the interest in learning and other abilities what they have. They always look for rewards and appreciations, applauds, etc. And more so, adolescent is a phase where everybody looks for recognition. When will my name be called out for? When will I go up that stage? Is a phase where these adolescents would be eager to. They take risk at ease, and they have increased emotional reactivity. As some of the panelists were speaking, they get angry more often, just for very simple reason. They have an increased emotional reactivity. They spend more time with their peers, less with parents. Now, having said all these things, there are both the internal factors and the external environment which influence all these changes. When we look back, as Mr. Burrett was asking us to close our eyes and then think of somebody else, it's the mentor who had influenced us comes into mind. But think of our own adolescent. Do we remember anything? What we did as an adolescent, or why did we do so? More so, it's just a passing cloud. That phase of life was just like a passing cloud. Everybody wanted to be recognized, independent, and so were the changes in adolescence. Now, I'm more going to highlight on the handling of adolescent by the teacher, by the parent. Role of the teacher. So as teachers, we having enough experience, we need to understand that no two adolescents have the same behavior, or they are not even equal to similar characteristics. So no comparisons on any child for that matter. Become a friend who is approachable to talk and clear their emotional imbalances due to his or her surrounding. There are a lot of emotional imbalances because they have these changes happening physically too. There are sudden changes coming into the child, and so there's a lot of emotional imbalances. Only if you are going to be a friendly character would they be able to share with you their problems. And encourage questioning. Even if you don't know the answer, you can always get back to them. It so happens most of the teachers do listen to the children, do encourage children questioning, but sometimes when there is a teenager asking, even if it's a grade 10 child, asking a silly question, we immediately remark, don't behave childish, don't ever ask childish questions, should not be happening, because the question is questioned whether adolescent or a child. It's a question which need to be cleared. In case you are not very clear with the answer, just get back to them at least a later stage. Encourage creativity could be the answers there. There'll be a lot of funny answers in their question papers. The answer sheets, what they write would carry on a lot of funny answers. There'll be a lot of criticisms. There will be a lot of kind of suggestions. Encourage them. If there's an essay in an English question paper asking for, if you were to be a teacher, they would give you what they expect from a teacher. And so encourage that creative thought in the child. And reward students. Rewards need not necessarily be materials. It can be appreciations across. Bring in the attention of students for the display of their innate potentials, which as teachers we will have to take it up and then project, which will make them more confident and we unleash their potential. Right. You should always be a role model for your students, because what Mr. Burrett, again, I put that, what we remember is our mentor who helped us come out of that difficulty. So be as a role model for the students. However old they get, they only remember their own role models in their schools. Use this platform to teach changes in the physiology. This is something which is very, very sensitive. Use this platform to teach the changes in the physiology that one undergoes, reproductive organs, the hormonal imbalance, the mood swings, and emotional outbursts, etc. Assure them, make them sure that it's all absolutely normal and the individual has to accept these transformation. As just concluded, Ms. Hemlata was mentioning about, these are all some very sensitive topics for the child to express. So give them that scope, make them comfortable. So a biology class could be used for addressing all these issues. Begin to treat them as adults, as they would always understand what responsibilities they need to handle, and they would always be accountable for their actions. So treat them as adults during that phase of adolescence. Don't ever spoon feed them, don't ever treat them as a child. Teach them to the technique to focus on their dreams and methods to realize it. So as an adolescent, this is the best time where you can allow the child to focus on their dreams, on what could be their passion, and what are the methods they can realize their dreams. You could see a lot of children kind of emulating their role models. They might be, it's a movie star, might be a cricketer or musician, whoever it could. They try to kind of behave the way they are because their dream could be something like that, very closer to that. Now, when we go to the role of a parent, how parent plays a very vital role, though the parents always skip it to the teachers and the teachers skip it to the parents. It's a combined effort, but also the parent would have a better role to play in this. The role of the parents could be encourage your child to choose his or her passionate career. Most often it happens that the parents' dream are asked to be fulfilled, not the child's. So try to find out the interest in the child. Let him or her own the responsibility of decision making. Support, as a parent, support the child with all choices, pros, cons, prior to taking his own decision. Do not pressurize him. Do not enforce your thoughts into the child. Make the child independent to take decision, but give him all the choices, give him the pros and cons of the decision what he is taking. Believe me, I'll believe you. The next very underlying factor of relationship. Suddenly, all of a sudden, uh, when we check, there are these three phases which are very important before they proceed into the adulthood: the infant stage, the childhood, early and late childhood, the adolescent, and the adult. Infant stage, almost every child observes very keenly. They try to kind of imitate their observations, and that's what is infancy. The childhood, they try to get accustomed with their social group, their peer group. They try to mingle with them. They learn all their kind of discipline, the values when they are with their peer group. But when it is adolescent, it's a very, very tough phase where child doesn't know, but he behaves as if he knows everything. And now that is where we will have to believe in the child and give the child the hope, the confidence that he can. So trust your child. Never bring down your child's confidence. Give him all that trust. Have the doors open. He will definitely do the right thing. If he's having a confusion, he'll always get back to you than going into third person. And these family issues always come up. Do not fight with your spouse in front of the adolescent. He is emotionally vulnerable. Adolescents model from their parents. They are the ones whom he is seeing from his childhood, from his infant, seeing them, and what are the changes he observed in the parents that would always influence the adolescent. Maintain a zen-like environment at home with healthy conversations and instill positive emotional states of mind. Always the confidence and the emotional state of mind, that's what I put it across. The emotional state of mind plays a vital role in the adolescent stage. In case you're not accepting the child's behavior and straight away put it on a negative platform, the child will not be behaving the way you want, but he will act differently. In There'll be two different kind of reactions. In front of the parents, he would act a different way, and outside it will be a different kind of reaction. Parents can teach their child about these sensitive growth cycles, menstruations, their cycles, reproduction, and not feel disgusted to talk about it, as you can create awareness. It's always been the Indian parenting setup that these are all very sensitive, we should not be talking to the child. But there are other means when a biology teacher, when a science teacher can teach it in class. You can also, the topic is included right from grade 8 about how reaching adolescence and how, what are the changes, what one needs to do, are the kind of topics which are, we can in general be talking to the child as a parent. This will avoid a lot of sexual abuse, respect for each other, and gender inequalities would be taken off from the child's brain. Never emotionally blackmail your children or instill fear in them. This is more so when they take they make a wrong step. You are irritated for their bad behavior or something, and the first thing what a teacher or a parent reacts is, you would not have a good future, you are fit for nothing, you you would not prosper. All these are to be taken off when we deal with an adolescent. This will further bring in a negative influence on the child's growth. Always be a support system where you build the confidence of your child. He would reach greater heights. Just believe the child. He will trust you. He will believe you. Now, this is where I would like to share. This is a student of mine. When I was just asking, immediately the first thought after I got my topic, what do you remember in your adolescent, was the question which I asked few of my students, and I'm just sharing 2 or 3. So this particular child passed out in the year 2000, so it's 2 decades back. He says he had a fantastic childhood, hands down the best time in his life. He still remembers only the childhood. At times I wonder how I would have been if I didn't have a school which enhanced my curiosity, love for extracurricular activities or the sports. He never mentioned any curricular subjects or the academic subjects. A big thanks to my teachers who have been phenomenal support in shaping those early foundation. Needless to say, the unsung hero in my life was his mom, who built on this beautiful foundation. He's only trying to, he's a wonderful student. He is a high achieving student. He finished his engineering graduation, and he is into Tollywood acting. Believe me, there is a small incident which made him choose this, though he has completed his professional degree in engineering. There was a inter-school competition. He was one among the dancers, and for some reason he was disqualified by the judge, though he performed very well. But amongst the team, his peer, one other girl got first place at All India competition. This was an All India competition. A girl got first prize in classical dance. Now, there's a comparison as an adolescent. For this silly reason, I was disqualified, wherein that girl had got. So you don't need to, the adolescents at the adolescent phase, they compare each other. From then on started that urge. I need to be recognized. I need to be known to people across. It is not my household. It is not my surrounding. I need to be known by people around. So even though he completed his engineering graduation, now he had that passion for that recognition. He was seeking that recognition, and that's how he has reached this far. That is what I understand from the child last 2 decades. I have one another wonderful student of mine, a senior test engineer and a visiting faculty at ITM. So as a teenager, when I was asking, this is her thoughts. As a teenager, I was always intrigued by why my physiology is changing in a specific way, which certainly I thought menstruating is bad. I even tried, lied to my friends. I was down with a fever. This is what generally children do. They give some other kind of excuses because we aren't providing a platform. We are not creating an awareness that these are all normal physical changes which one see when they enter into an. So there were a lot of kind of confusions in the child. I wasn't open asking these questions to my parents or teachers or friends. I used to shy away, being this is a true fact, friends. Children don't speak when they're not confident of sharing. They always presume things, how the others would react. And during my 9th grade, my biology ma'am helped us realize that it's a normal phase through our class on reproductive system, which made me embrace the change with grace. And remember, this child is about 16 years back, she completed 16, 17. She still remembers biology madam taking up this topic because that influenced the child on this very sensitive topic, which she was not able to share with the parents or the friends. So when my amazing parents did not put me down when I didn't shine with academy, they just left me myself, take my own decisions, and how much I wish to score, all these things with a lot of support from the parents. There are parents who always keep comparing on the grades from their friends, all those things. This particular parent encouraged child not focusing on the numbers or the marks or the grades, but allow the child to proceed on her own. This child, though a senior test engineer, I'm proud. Now she's trying to realize her dream, preparing for the civil services. She's trying to get into the civil services. God bless her to reach greater heights. I have shared two such instances which showed say 15 to 20 years back. Now these are my proud children. We cannot decide on the children, the children from A-tier achieve this, the children from a rural background don't. These are my children who have made us all feel proud of them. The first two children, Miss Likita and Kaveri, are selected for an exchange program sponsored by AFS. AFS is American Field Service Program, and AFS India had about 500 applications. Out of 500 applications, it's shortlisted to only 40, and these two children are among the 40. Two of my children from a rural background, underprivileged, where there is connectivity issues, there is no kind of facilities at home, there's no nothing possible for this child to reach for to that level. These children's confidence, how they prepared themselves at each level when they got selected, they felt confident, and that's the reason now they are in for the intercultural exchange program. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, things are getting delayed. Otherwise, by this time they should have been there at US. And another student who went into national level kabaddi. She was the captain of Andhra Pradesh team, a 10th standard. All of them are 10th grade children. A 10th grade child from a remote village in Nellore, heading the state team at national level kabaddi tournament is an awesome achievement. It is not, I'm not talking about my school, it is the confidence, how we build the, how we instill the confidence in the children at adolescent phase is what is very, very important. And that's all for you, my dear friends.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And it's been absolutely inspiring hearing the stories of your children. The work that you're doing at your school is phenomenal. And all of us take inspiration from your work, especially in working with the sections of the underprivileged sections of the society. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sabia.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our speaking sessions. Before we wrap up for the day, unfortunately today we would not have time for questions. Before we wrap up for the day, a quick reminder, we are now inviting registrations for the 0-hour debate. We opened the registrations yesterday. We have 64 teams that we're looking for. 0-hour promises to be India's largest online inter-school debate. We are looking for the best public speaking talent in India among school children. This document that you're seeing on your screens right now, we have already sent a copy to your school over email. If you have not received it, please let us know so that we can share another copy with you. And we would be happy to handhold you through the registration process. Rules have been clearly laid out. We are looking for teams of 2 students and 1 teacher as an adjudicator who can come from your school. Mr. Kadhiresan, particularly from your school, we would love to have a team come. We are sure that they'll shine brighter than most other schools out here. The grand finale is on the 15th of August. So the debates will run from 15th of July to the 15th of August, a 1-month grueling process through which we want to identify the best debating team that among schools in this country. We already have more than 20 slots that have been taken up just yesterday alone. So if you are looking for your debate team to be part of this, please do not delay. We would love to have you as part of this event. With that said, it is now my privilege to invite Achin back for the vote of thanks. It has been a fantastic session. A thank you to all the speakers. This is your host, Shubhayu Roy, signing off. Achin, over to you.
So I think we really had a great session, very inspiring, and a lot of very important and sensitive pertinent issues came to the forefront. Bharat sir, great opening remarks, really set the tone for the evening. Thank you so much for raising the bar, as always. Mr. Bagul, schools, I think, I was listening very carefully to you. some very important observations you made. And I completely agree with you when you said schools and children are dealing with emotional and psychological issues, especially during current times. And yes, you rightly pointed out that when we close our eyes, as a mentor, we do see our favorite teacher. Yes, sir, teachers are heroes, especially during current times. You know, all of us, I can tell you the entire country salutes our educators for quick adaptability in terms of how fast they adapted to digital education. And they have ensured that although schools are closed, schooling is on. It has really been phenomenal. Thus, I agree that teachers are indeed the most stabilizing factor. I also understand, very rightly pointed out, that we cannot be too judgmental, and we need to understand where teenagers, adolescents are coming from. And parents need to be taken into confidence, and schools need to work closely with parents. No denying the fact. We just cannot overemphasize this. It's really important. Miss Hemlata Shukla Suri, I think you highlighted all the important issues, from mood swings to confusions to rage to confrontation to oversensitivity, erratic sleep patterns, eating habits, body shaming, certain behavioral changes. Very well explained. These are issues that really gets us worried. Yes, they need help, and being observant is important. But I'm sure with so many eminent educators here, and with the kind of deliberations we had, I'm sure help is not far. I'm 100% confident that all of us will join hands and ensure that our young friend get the best possible help. Mr. Kadhiresan, we are so happy to have you here today from Nellore. Very well structured presentation. And when you said that a feeling of knowing everything and looking for recognition and increased emotional reactivity, yes, these are challenges that I guess every parent and teacher deals with. Also, no two adolescents are same, and we do need to clear emotional imbalances, and important to make them feel responsible for their action. That's one thing I couldn't agree more. It's really important. Thus, as far as parents are concerned, important to trust your child and maintain a healthy environment at home and being a support system. So I think we really had a great session today. I also thank the audience for being with us and for encouraging us in every session in this Together for Education webinar. In fact, your constant encouragement and support has helped us to hold these webinars twice a week, and we have only gone from strength to strength and learned from each other. We look forward to having you with us for our next session on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.